Alright, so this is the long-awaited Season 2 of Midnight Enhancement Shaman Guide. A lot of people in my streams have been asking for this, and I wanted to take my time, write down a perfect script so that you guys learn everything you need to know in this video without ever having to watch any other guides. Unless anything changes, if ever anything changes when it comes to Enhancement Shaman or itemization, rotation, whatever it is, I will keep you updated, so subscribe for that. But after watching this guide, you will not need any other guides that are out on YouTube that you will be plastered with on your For You page at all, because I will tell you and teach you everything that you need to know to get started with Enhancement Shaman, whether you're a beginner or intermediate or know everything. Maybe I can teach you something that you didn't know. I will go over every single piece of information that I have and that I can give you that is important for Season 2. Now, who's this guy yapping and saying he's the best Enhancement Shaman? First off, I'm not, but I would say that I have used Season 1 very effectively to learn the spec inside and out. I know basically everything that I need to know, everything you can know, and that is also reflected by my ratings. I'm currently top 15 on EU when it comes to the Enhancement Shaman listings on Radar.io. Take it as you will. Doesn't really matter, but some people care about that. I reached almost 4100 rating on Season 1. I ended up at 4083 rating simply because I just couldn't take it anymore. So I have a lot of knowledge when it comes to the spec. I also gathered a lot of information about Season 2 on the PTR, how the rotation works, how the tier set works, how the items work, which are the best items. So I will teach you guys everything that I know and I think is important, so that you guys don't have to watch 5 guides to piece all of the information together and then end up with like 50% of the information that you should know. So anyways, before we get started with the rotation stuff, let's go into the talents. Now, last season, you were able to change or choose between Stormbringer and Totemic. Not the case anymore. Definitely not the case anymore. Now, Stormbringer is way stronger than Totemic this season. Why? Because the nerfs that hit both of these hero talents kinda destroyed Totemic. I don't know why. I don't play Totemic. I'm not a fan of Totemic, but it just nuked it to the ground, right? And before you say, oh, I'm just a Totemic hater and I want Totemic players to like suffer, it's not. I do have proof over here. As you can tell, these are the PTR stats of all the Enhancement Shamans, and as you can tell, the damage is significantly higher on Stormbringer than it is on Totemic. Now, granted, people started optimizing Shaman on the PTR. This went up, this went down because no one played it after like the first 2 weeks after realizing it's just trash, right? But you can take my word for it. As of now, if there's no other patch coming out that buffs Totemic for whatever reason, I don't see a world where Totemic can compete with Stormbringer at all. Like, there's no chance. So Stormbringer is the way to go this season. Better for me, but unfortunate for the Totemic enjoyers. Now, inside the Stormbringer build, there was also 2 different builds that you could go. First one is this one, the full Apex build, where you go 4 points into your Apex talent tree and take Feral Spirit. Or this one, where you take 2 points out of it, take the Feral Spirit out, and then go this tree down up until the Primordial Storm, up to the max, right? This basically got nerfed. None of these abilities got hit directly, but they nerfed Doomwinds to not give you a 100% proc chance of Wind Fury weapon while Doomwinds is active anymore. It got reduced to 50%. Now, you might wonder, what do these have to do with Doomwinds? Well, if you guys watched my Season 1 guide, you should already know that Primordial Storm counts as 3 separate attacks. These 3 separate attacks were able to proc Wind Fury, which means when you used Primordial Storm during Doomwinds, you basically automatically always had 6 attacks, boosting the damage of Primordial Storm tremendously, right? It was insane. But since this got nerfed, this basically also got nerfed. Now, you could go some weird build like this, or maybe this, but it's just not competing with what is currently the best, and it is the full Apex build. It is also a build that I grew quite fond of. I didn't really like it because I'm a haste guy. I like having a lot of haste. But if you optimize your stats, you can basically get these 15% haste on the full Apex build tree too. I will tell you how later. So this is the build. I do believe that the Sundering build is still somewhat playable, but I don't think it can compete numbers wise if you go for the highest top keys, right? So this is the build that I recommend. Unfortunately, no longer really any like variety here. This is your set tree in Raid, in Mythic Plus, single target, AoE. It's always the same if you play Stormbringer. This doesn't change anymore. Now on the left side, we obviously have a fuck ton of utility, right? Everyone that plays Shaman, any Shaman spec knows Shaman brings a lot of utility. We have things like Purge, Cleanse, Stuns, CC removals, another CC removal, another CC removal, or like snare removal, whatever it is. We have poison removal, we have charm and fear removal. We have a lot of utility, right? And most of these abilities will come into play in Season 2. I created a like nice little graphic image of every like optimal talent you need. I'm gonna show it on screen right here. You can also download it on my Discord or in my YouTube community post or on Patreon, wherever you are. You can download it, save it on your PC so you have quick access to it every single time. But basically all of these talents will come into play at some point in any like dungeon, right? So either memorize this list or download it and just keep it up on your second monitor right before you go into a key, so you can optimize your talent tree. That way you will always be equipped with everything you need. So this tree will always be flexible, which is why I also recommend you talents like Talent Loadout X, so you can create multiple profiles and switch around between them very, very quickly. But this is basically the talent tree. Left side, very flexible. Right side, not flexible at all anymore. Stormbringer is the go-to. That is all you need to know. Now with this, with these talent changes, there are also stat changes that you need to do. Last season, you put a lot of focus on a high amount of mastery. Like you aimed for about 70% mastery and let's say like 21 to 23% haste. This time, you put a lot more priority on haste, making haste and mastery equally as important with each other. So whenever you can get a haste mastery item, you should always keep it and always use it, because haste and mastery are your best friends. You should aim for an equal amount of mastery and haste. So I would say go for about 750 for each. Now my stats on the PTR are completely fucked. Don't even look at those. Try to aim for around the same amount of mastery and haste that you can get now. As you can see, I have a way too little mastery and a little bit too much haste. So I think 750 is a good point or good number to aim for when it comes to these stats. After you get your haste and masteries complete, go for crit for the rest, and then verse whenever you have it. Verse is always nice, helps you survive. But haste and mastery are your go-to. If you want to stay up to date with all of the stat priorities and what you need and all of these things that you can see right here and meet these thresholds effectively, right? Consider getting this add-on. It's called Class Codex. I'm not like sponsored by them or anything, but it is a really great add-on. Currently, it is only available on wago.io. It got taken down from CurseForge for whatever reason. I don't quite know why. But this will basically give you all of the information that you can find on websites like Archon, Wowhead, Murloc.io, what else? Icy Veins. All of these websites are basically put into this nice little listing. These are obviously outdated right now because the add-on has not been updated yet, since these sites don't exist yet for the live servers, right? Season 2 is not out yet as the time of this recording, so you will see these Season 1 things. When Season 2 comes out, this will get updated pretty much instantly, especially if you look down here and take a look at when it was last refreshed. So whenever you update this add-on, it will also update the last refresh, right? I would really recommend you to get this add-on. Just it gives you quick information that you need, that you will need to look up anyway, so saves you a lot of time. Now, the BIS trinkets for this season. Basically, puzzle box. Now, hear me out. The Voracious Heart of Ulatek is the puzzle box that you got in Season 1, but on crack, with steroids, and like 5 other drugs. This is an instant on-use trinket that will give you 479 agility for 20 seconds. And while the hunger persists, you gain a very high chance to devour a morsel of your target with every attack, dealing physical damage and further increasing your agility by 53. This is BIS for every single spec in the game that can wear this. So you will have a lot of competition, especially since this drops off of the last boss of the new raid. You get it from Ulatech itself. This might be hard to get for some of you, but if you can, I would really recommend you to get this one. This is basically your puzzle box of season 2, right? This will boost your damage tremendously. This is a must-have item. Like if you don't even raid, if you don't like raiding, you should still somehow push through and get this trinket somehow. Hope that you're lucky and get it on the first try. Otherwise, just try to get this as best as you can, right? As quickly as you can. The second BIS trinket is the Zul'jin's Guillotine Technique. Now, this trinket on its own is already good. It deals physical damage, like throws some axes onto the targets randomly, and it increases the damage by 2% for every 1% health the target is missing. So it's basically an execute ability, right? But with the Bite of Zul'jin tier set thingy that you get with using this weapon, the Aman Muso Warlord's Vengeance, which is also a BIS item, this damage is basically increased by another 100% since it starts ricocheting off to another target, making the trinket basically AoE, right? Now, to get this and this and this, you need to raid. These 3 things you cannot really avoid. You need these 3 trinkets if you want to deal the most amount of damage, right? And to get these 2 things, like the trinket and the weapon, you need to kill the Coiled Altar, so the penultimate boss, right? This is a very rare drop, and this is just the drop, but this is also BIS for almost everyone. So this season, everyone has to compete when it comes to trinkets, especially agility and strength users. This, and this is BIS for everybody that can get it. The weapon also deals damage over time, puts like a poison on the target. This is like insane amounts of damage, right? The trinket alone already does 6% of my damage as a trinket, crazy. And then the weapon comes in with like 0.5%, but this trinket alone makes getting this weapon most definitely worth it, right? The almost 6% as a trinket is crazy amounts of damage. High recommendation to get this one. If you don't want to get all of this, you can also go for the Light Spire Core, but in my opinion, it's just a hassle to play with. You basically spawn a little beam of light on the floor wherever you stand. It's just a random proc, and you have to stand inside that light beam to increase your mastery by a little bit, right? It's honestly just pain, especially if your tank has to move and kite, or if you get an unlucky proc while running towards a mob. It all can happen. Playing with this trinket is honestly, this is your worst case trinket. If you don't have anything else, use this. Otherwise, go for the Keeper Seething Core that basically has a haste increase, multiple stacks apply, it can stack, and it's just a random proc, right? Nice to have. Haste is always nicer on a Shaman. And the other trinket you can get is Tattered Amani War Banner, which is an on-use trinket. You just plant the banner, and then you gain a little bit of your highest secondary stat, which will most likely be Mastery. So these 3 trinkets are your alternative. I have not really played a lot with all of the other trinkets. They are just mid. So if you can avoid them, if you don't want to raid or are just unlucky to get these 2, go for these 3. But I would really recommend you to get this, and this. Like the insane damage. You saw it. 6% on a trinket is crazy. Now let's move on to embellishments. The embellishments, for the most part, did not change. Enchants also didn't change. Gems also didn't change. So you still go for the double Arcana weave on cloak, wrist, weapon, belt, whatever is your lowest eye level, right? You can also put them on pants, which is usually not recommended because it is a tier piece. Those are like the 3 to 4 spots that you can put it without ever really having to think about it. So the enchants also, as I said, didn't really change. You basically use all of these enchants. The only thing you can now switch around are the weapon enchants. And since you have 2 weapons, you can basically have 2 different enchants on it or stack 2 of the same. It's honestly really just preference, whether or not you like it or not. You just have to play around with it. And the 3 enchants you can play with is Arcane Mastery, which has a random chance of increasing your mastery, Berserker's Rage, which has a random chance of increasing your haste, or Acuity of the Render Eye, which basically increases your agility for a few seconds, right? Whatever you want most, go for it. I'm a fan of Acuity because it increases your agility, but next season I will probably go Acuity and Berserker's Rage like I am doing on the PTR right now. This is also the thing that I would recommend you the most, but if you're already having a lot of haste and you need a little bit more mastery, go for Arcane Mastery. If you have more mastery, go for Berserker's Rage. If you have both of them, go for Acuity. You just have to play around with it, right? There's no like BIS list for this. Now, the gems are, as I said, still the same. So you always put in 1 indecipherable Eversong Diamond, increasing your primary stat, in this case agility. And the secondary gem is basically the Flawless Quick Amethyst or the Flawless Quick Peridot, whichever stat you need more, right? The flask this time is no longer Flask of the Magistus. You can still play it if you have a lot of haste and a little bit too little mastery, right? Still fine to play. But if you have your stats optimized, you would rather go for the Blood Knights, which increases your haste. As you can tell, this season you need a little bit more haste, so having Blood Knights just helps you out. And your Combat Flask, still the same, Light's Potential. Food, still the same, Royal Roast, or in best case scenarios like Feast. Now, let's get to the good part, the rotation. The rotation, for the most part, if you have already played Enhancement Shaman in Season 1, didn't really change a lot. For anyone that doesn't know, you no longer play with Sundering, as I said earlier in the talent section. So you only have 1 cooldown, which is your Ascendance button. It has a 2-minute cooldown, and it is a huge damage boost. It like gives you a fuck ton of damage, so you should use it as much as you can. But this is always combined with your Trinket, which is a 1 minute and 30 seconds cooldown. Your Trinket has a little bit of a downtime, so that is unfortunate, but there's nothing you can do about it. So if you have your Trinket up, but your Ascendance is still on cooldown, don't use it. Just wait for Ascendance to be back up and use them both at the same time, because it will boost your damage tremendously, right? Now, the basic rotation is still the same. So you go for your Combat Flask, which in this case is my Light's Potential. So you go for your Combat Flask, Trinket, will take Blaze, Crash Lightning, Bloodlust, Ascend, and then you spam Wind Strike while Crash Lightning is on cooldown. Once Crash Lightning comes off of cooldown, you use all of the stacks that you can find, and then keep spamming Wind Strike until Ascendance is over, right? But whenever you have Crash Lightning up, you use Crash Lightning. Crash Lightning needs to be on cooldown at all times, right? Crash Lightning gives you a massive damage buff. It makes your Storm Strike AoE basically, and it increases your auto attack speed. All of these things will boost your damage tremendously, especially in AoE situations. If you don't have a single Crash Lightning stack, you will just not deal good amounts of AoE damage, right? You should always have at least 1 stack of Crash Lightning up, especially when you're in AoE. But that is why you just keep Crash Lightning on cooldown. Don't worry, if you use all of them at once, you will definitely get some resets, especially with the tier set of this season. You will definitely get some resets, so always use them up whenever you can. It deals a lot of damage. Like, as you can tell, it is my 2nd highest damage dealing ability, which is just crazy, right? So always use it, and if you don't, I will find you. I'm kidding, but always use it, right? Now, that was a big pull, or your big cooldown usage pull, right? And rotation. Now, what do you do if Ascendance is on cooldown? Like right now, a just small little like 5 mob pack, right? What do you do? The rotation is basically the same. We'll take Blaze, Crash Lightning, and then you build up your Maidstone weapons, and then you spend them depending on what you have. Like if you're in single target, you go for Lightning Bolt. If you're in AoE, you go for Crash Lightning. Whenever you have Tempest up, you always use Tempest, no matter if it's AoE or single target. Tempest is an AoE ability and a insane single target ability, right? So always make sure to use up your Tempest, because these don't stack. If you have a Tempest stack and you don't use it, you won't get any other ones, and you will lose a lot of damage. So this is basically your rotation. Pretty simple once you get used to it. And the only change of this season, if you're used to this already, if you have already played Enhancement in Season 1, the only change is Voltaic Blaze now has a way higher priority on your list. Why? Well, basically, your new tier set makes Voltaic Blaze way more important, right? It causes your primary target to erupt in a Fire Nova every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. Fire Nova deals 200% increased damage to the primary target of your Voltaic Blaze. And the 4 set makes Fire Nova reduce the cooldown of Crash Lightning by 2 seconds and increases the damage of your next Crash Lightning by 8%, stacking up to 5 times. Right? So even if you're unlucky and don't get any resets, this will still stack up to 5 times. So what you want to do is always keep Voltaic Blaze on cooldown and always keep Crash Lightning on cooldown. Whenever you have one of these two up, even if these guys already have like Flame Shock up, right? Use your Voltaic Blaze. Now, obviously, don't use it when you have 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks. Before you use that, you just spend all of your Maelstrom weapon stacks, so you don't waste the generation that you get with Voltaic Blaze. But whenever you have it up, always keep it on cooldown. Same thing with Crash Lightning. You just have a different priority list. Now, the only thing that is important in this rotation is that you don't overcap on your Maelstrom weapons, that you always keep Voltaic Blaze on cooldown, and that you always keep Crash Lightning on cooldown. If you complete all of these 3 things, I can guarantee you your damage will skyrocket this season. Now, obviously, while Ascendance is not active, every Maelstrom weapon stack spent increases the chance of you getting a random Doomwinds proc by 0.5%. So if you send it at 10 every single time, you get basically a 5% chance with every Maelstrom spender to randomly proc Doomwinds. Doomwinds is this ability. It unleashes a devastating storm around yourself, dealing storm strike damage every 1 second to nearby enemies for 10 seconds, right? And it increases your active Wind Fury weapon by 50% and the damage of Wind Fury weapon by 20%. And during Doomwinds, thanks to another talent, which is the Thorum's invocation, you will automatically start spending your Maelstrom weapon stacks down. Perfect. Whenever you use Crash Lightning and whenever you use Storm Strike. So whenever you get Doomwinds up, you leave everything you were doing and you just spam Storm Strike and Crash Lightning, right? Even you should also ignore Voltaic Blaze during that window, but only during that window. The only times where I accept you ignoring Voltaic Blaze is during Ascendance and during Doomwinds. If you start using Voltaic Blaze during those windows, you will lose a significant amounts of damage. It's not worth it to keep Voltaic Blaze on cooldown. Just make sure that you use it once one of those 2 things run out, right? All right, now that we've gone over the core rotation, like big rotation, your normal rotation, and basically the entirety of your kit, I will give you some more tips to maximize your damage. As you might have already been able to tell, Ascendance is a ranged ability. If you use Ascendance, your auto attacks become ranged, your Storm Strike becomes ranged, and you can just run around and walk around in range, right? That is great for certain scenarios. For example, in Season 1 of Midnight, we had the Agatha Academy, right? The mini-boss right after the tree boss on the little platform that has like wind abilities. It would usually cast a big circle around him. If you had Ascendance up while this guy was casting the big circle, you could stand right outside the range and still attack the guy. For certain scenarios like this, it is great. However, if you have Ascendance up, you also automatically get Doom, and Doomwinds unleashes a devastating storm. Even though you are becoming ranged with Ascendance, you still have like this storm around you that is not that big of a range, right? So what I would recommend you is, if you don't have to, always stand in as many mobs as you can while Doomwinds is up and while Ascendance is up. You are 50% ranged at all times, like your Lightning Bolt is ranged, most of your kit is ranged, right? But Doomwinds basically forces you to stay melee, so you maximize the damage output of it. So that is a tip that I've seen most people do. They just run away when Ascendance is up. When they use Ascendance, they just run away. First off, if you run away, you're also out of range of using your Crash Lightning, and Crash Lightning is like very important this season. It was already last season, but this season it's even more important, right? So make sure that you stay in range or stay in melee range so that you don't miss the chance of using your Crash Lightning and you don't miss the damage of your Doomwinds, right? Let me press it right here. As you can see, I'm not pressing anything, but it is taking Doomwinds damage right here because of this storm that I'm causing around me. It is just very important that you stay melee for that. Now, the next tip is to always use Maelstrom spenders on 10 stacks, especially Tempest if you can. But if you don't have anything anymore, don't like sit on them and like let them rot away. If you have nothing to press anymore, if you're completely dry, like you don't have any Storm Strike stacks, you don't have any Crash Lightning stacks, nothing, right? But you have like 6 Maelstrom weapons. Just send your spender, and if you have enough mastery, you will probably get a reset of a Storm Strike or Crash Lightning or anything on your kit. Will basically allow you to snowball yourself back up, right? You will basically be able to energize yourself back up. If you have nothing, just send a lightning bolt, send a Crash Lightning, send a Tempest at 6 stacks. It's okay. Even at 4 stacks, if you have to cast for a little bit, go for it. If you don't have anything, use it, and you will most definitely get a Storm Strike reset. If you get a Storm Strike reset, you can start attacking again, and by that time you will just energize yourself back up, have everything back up again. It's just a really fun way to get out of like the situation of not having anything to press. And don't be so dead on focused on only sending it at 10. I even sometimes send it at 8 or 9 so I don't overcap on my Maelstrom weapons. It's just a little min-maxy thing. But you should never send it below 8 unless you like don't have anything else to do. Next tip is that you can and you should always use Ascendance right before the key starts. Now, most key holders always do a 10-second cooldown before they activate the keystone, right? Right before the number hits 0 or 1, whenever your key holder starts the key, press your Ascendance. You will go into Ascendance, the key will start, you will get thrown out of Ascendance. However, you will still keep your Doomwinds buff. The Doomwinds buff will generate you 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks, which basically allows you to have a free spender on the go for the very first pull. Now, this doesn't sound like much, right? But if you think about it, if you send it and get a reset, you can send it again. And if you're very lucky, you can get a Doomwinds out of it. And if you get a Doomwinds out of it, you can just snowball out of it insanely hard and increase your damage, right? You can use your Doomwinds the entire way until it runs out, and then go into Ascendance if it is a like Bloodlust Ascendance pull, and then go absolutely bonkers, right? It is just a little thing, but if you snowball off of that one Maelstrom weapon spender, you go wacky mode, right? So I would always recommend you to use Ascendance right before the key starts. Just a nice little like bonus Maelstrom weapon spender. And now the next and last tip is to make use of your Wind Shear. Now, what do I mean you make use of your Wind Shear? You should obviously always kick, right? Yes, but you as a Shaman have probably the strongest interruptibility in the game. First off, you're a melee with a ranged kick. Insane value. You have one of the shortest cooldowns on your kick with 12 seconds. Additionally, you get a 12-second 15% spell damage reduction if you successfully interrupt an ability. And as you can tell, this has a 12-second duration and this has a 12-second cooldown, which means you can theoretically have a 100% uptime on Wind Whale. Now, this ability or this passive gained a lot of power this season. And the only reason why is there's a lot of poisons and there's a lot of like spell damage in these dungeons. Like Ruby Life Pools, fire damage, Altar of Fangs, poison damage, basically not nature damage, right? Nature is also spell. Frost damage in Ruby Life Pools again. There's a lot of like spell damage this season. So if you can, use Wind Veil as much as you can. Like kick as much as you can. Kick like your life depends on it, because it does. Shaman is still one of the squishiest classes in the game. Not even specs. The entire class is squishy. So being able to make use of Wind Veil will get you a long way, right? This is very mandatory that you learn how to use this effectively. Now, this obviously doesn't help you against bleeds, because bleeds are physical damage, and there's also a lot of bleeds in these dungeons this season. But there's also very, very many poisons and nature damage and frost damage, fire damage, spell damage, right? Big use of Wind Veil. You will thank me. You will survive a lot more pulls. Trust me. Now that I've given you some tips, I will also give you some macros on the way. Now, the biggest and honestly most important macro is this one. It is a Ascendance macro, which combines your racial. Optimally, it's either the Orc attack power buff or Berserking. In my case, I'm a troll. If you have a defensive buff like dwarves, don't use this. Even if you are a Dark Iron Dwarf and it increases your secondary stats, don't use it. You should keep the defensive ratios for defensive reasons only. Even if it gives you these secondary stat buff, don't use it for offensive reasons. It is way stronger when you use it defensively. But if you're playing something like an Orc, a Troll, and I think that's the only two Shaman specs that can go offensive, yeah, or Mecha Orc, you can combine your Ascendance with your ratio. Just a nice little thing to have. You don't have to press another button, right? And since your racial is off of the GCD, you can combine these very easily. The second macro, and basically a lot of macros when it comes to totems, is a add cursor macro. Now, as you can tell, in this case with the capacitor totem, I always add a /yell stun in 2 seconds, so everybody in my team knows that I will be stunning the targets in 2 seconds. Now, why 2 seconds? You put the that's because you just take the capacitor totem, put it down, and it goes off in 2 seconds. No one sees that totem when you like gathered a massive pack of mobs, right? So sometimes before I had this add-on, or before I had this macro, I put the totem down. Everybody used their CC because like 3 casts overlap with each other, and my stun basically did nothing. So ever since I added this, it got way less, and people have been more coordinated that way. So make yourself a favor and add this little line to your capacitor totem so that this happens. See? And to make it easier for you to place down these totems in like stressful situations, so you don't have to, play with this like green circle thingy, always add the add cursor command to your totems, no matter which one it is. I have it on my Earth Grab, I have it on my Windrush totem, I have it on my capacitor totem. Any totem that you have, even on Resto, I would recommend you to use this add cursor totem macro, so you can just quickly put it down without having to click, right? It just makes your life a lot easier. One click less can save your life, right? Like let's say I'm running here and I'm turning around and putting it down there. You could not do that with like the big circle green thing. All right, we've gone over everything offensive. Now let's talk about defensive options. Now, as I've already teased, Shaman is one of the squishiest classes in this game. We don't have a lot of defensive options. We have the Earth Elemental, we have Wind Veil, as I said, but this just requires you to have a good timing on kicks, because sometimes you will get sniped, sometimes in interrupts, sometimes you miss. It just happens, right? It is unlikely that you can have this up at 100% effectiveness, plus it doesn't work on every damage type. Your best bet to survive is Astral Shift. It is a 1.5 minute cooldown. It reduces your damage taken by 40% and lasts for 12 seconds. Good defensive. However, this is your only defensive. There's also Spirit Wolf, which if you turn into Ghost Wolf, you gain 5% increased movement speed and 5% damage reduction every 1 second, stacking up to 4 times. So for this to be effective, you would need to sit in Ghost Wolf for 3 seconds at least without doing anything. You cannot attack. I mean, you can auto-attack, I guess, but this is a trash defensive. Earth Elemental is a trash defensive. This is situational, and this is a good defensive. So as you can tell, only one defensive. You also have a budget cheat death passive, which when your health is brought down below 35%, you instantly heal for 40% every 45 seconds. So this is like a good survival option, but if you get a one shot, you're dead anyway. This doesn't go through if you die. And then you have the reduces all magic damage taken. You have the option of taking these 2 talents, which if you place down your healing stream totem, it will reduce everyone's damage taken from fire, frost, and nature damage for 6 seconds, or for 3 seconds by 6%. It's just all of these defensives are just mid, and mostly for magic, right? Magic or bell. Your defensive options are very limited, which is also why I would recommend you to go for Dwarf or Dark Iron Dwarf next season. If you want to push high keys. If you don't push high keys, it doesn't really matter what you play. But if you push high keys, I would really recommend you to go Dwarf, especially since you get a 10% damage reduction on top of being able to remove every single debuff in the game. So diseases, poisons, bleeds, magic, whatever there is, you can remove it. on a 2-minute cooldown. It will save your life multiple times, especially since there's a lot of poisons that can kill you, a lot of bleeds that can kill you. It is just another defensive that you can make use of. But if you want to be a Chad, if you want to be like cool, the other best races are Orc for Blood Fury, Mecha Orc for the buff, for the secondary stat buff. The best defensive option is Stone Form from Dwarves. Now, to end this video, I want to give you a pros and cons list on why you should or should not play Enhancement Shaman if you haven't decided yet. First off, I'll start with the cons. The cons are, it is a very squishy spec. It doesn't have a lot of defensives. Like, as I said, it has 1 good defensive and like 3 trash defensives. So I guess 1.5 defensives. It is also very RNG based. So sometimes you just don't get any Doomwinds and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to like hold your hands together and start praying at some point. And your damage just really depends on Doomwinds. It got reduced this season. They increased the base damage of Shamans, but decreased the amount of damage you deal during Doomwinds and Ascendance, but you still depend on it. Now, the big pros, and in my opinion, they overweigh the cons by a large margin. If you get a big proc, like 2 to 3 Doomwinds in a row on a perfect pack, you go big boom stupid damage, right? You go absolutely ballistic, no one can compete with you, even the top DPS specs, top meta specs, they cannot compete with you. You bring a ton of utility. You have Sky Fury, you have Bloodlust, you have stuns, roots, poison removals, you have slows, you have Purge, you have Cleanse. You have a self-revive, which is also quite good. You can basically use this as a like defensive sometimes. Like sometimes you just have no way of surviving, so you just intentionally die and revive instantly to basically get back into the game, right? It is incredibly fun. Like one of, if not the most fun spec that I've played in a very long time. This DPS spec made me quit tanking. All I'm saying. And as of now, it is also the most fun spec in Season 2. I don't think there's anything that's getting close to this. And if you have already enjoyed fast-paced gameplay, like let's say Outlaw Rogue or Frosty Case, I guess, Enhancement Shaman is definitely the spec for you. Now, this is basically my entire guide. I have taught you everything that you need to know, everything you can know, everything you need to like get started to play Enhancement Shaman and to improve your knowledge for Season 2, right? Some people still ask me about these things. So here you go. If you have enjoyed this guide, if I was able to help you out, if I was able to get your foot into the door into Enhancement Shaman's house, right? Let me know down in the comments if you liked it. If you didn't like it, also let me know. Like this video, subscribe to the channel to not miss any future uploads of me, and check out my Twitch. I'm live almost every single day, especially now with the season launch. I will be going big blast, stupid boom damage on Mythic Plus, trying to push 3k on day 1. Watch out for that, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.